Welcome. Welcome to today's session. Before we move on to the agenda of today's session, let me first tell you what made us design this session for you, and what were the reasons behind coming out with this session. So the idea behind this session was pretty interesting. The way it came out was pretty interesting. For the past few months, we have been noticing a lot of students coming out with their queries of what to do and how to do in the verbal ability section, and all of them were of the same opinion, or of the same end result, that they are not able to crack the English language section or the verbal ability section of competitive exams. So that was something that was true for everyone who came out with these kinds of similar kind of queries. I'll tell you what are the queries, but most of them, or all of them rather, who came out with these queries had one thing in common, and that was that they were facing a huge challenge when it came to scoring good in English language section or verbal ability section of competitive exam. Any competitive exam, for whether it was MBA entrance exams, whether it was bank PO exams like SBI PO, MBA entrance exams like CAT, SSC exam. So all students from diverse background, from MBA aspirant to bank PO aspirant, from a job aspirant, for a person who were targeting campus recruitment, they came out with these problems. Now, when we digged in deeper, we saw that most of them for the past 1 or 2 years have been trying for these exams and were not able to crack these exams, the verbal ability section specifically of these exams. And now when they were asking for us, for advice from us, and we prodded that what did you do for the last 2 years or for the last 1 year, most of them ended up saying that they asked for opinions from others, and maybe someone who has cracked it, maybe someone any XYZ only, and then in India there is this problem that we face, that we ask for opinion from anybody and everybody, and anybody or everybody would come and give us opinion, because opinion is something that we Indians love to share, right? And they got these opinions, and sometimes unfortunately those opinions were from areas or from sources which the student or the candidate thought was credible. Now they went forward, tried their best with those opinions in mind, with what has been suggested by those opinionated individuals, and why did they do so? We asked them, why did you do so? They said that, sir, it's not that we listened to only one person. We saw in Facebook, we saw in groups, we asked our friends, and we saw that those kinds of opinion were repeated again and again. So when what happened psychologically, when they listened to the same opinion, it became truth in their mind, and they started believing in it, right? So they started believing in it and they started practicing it, but at the end of the day, those opinions were not truths. So hence, as much as they practice on it, that's not going to give them the desired result, and that's what happened. Because those opinions were myths. Actually, they were myths, right? And they believed in those myths because people repeated it so often, and sometimes credible people repeated it so often without giving the inside brackets information with those opinions, that the students lost a lot of their valuable time, right? But I'll not blame those people who gave the opinion, because students, candidates, they are also to blame themselves, because they should have thought about it, should have ruminated over it and thought that would this work, right? You have your common sense. At the end of the day, that's your greatest lie. So whenever someone tells you, including everyone, anyone or everyone who says you something, you should logically drive yourself to that particular point and see whether that particular conclusion would work for you or not. Because see, all of these opinions had one thing in common, and what was that? The commonness was that they were promising easy ways out for English language or verbal ability section. They were promising a tonic for English language or verbal ability section. It was like, eat this capsule and have a six-pack, right? So that's the kind of thing it was. So that does not happen. You don't build six packs by taking a capsule or a tonic. You build six packs by a lot of hard work, by a lot of sincerity, putting a lot of love put in your own body and workout, right? So you also should have thought about it. So that's why we thought that yes, now a lot of them already know that these are the things that are not working, but they are not really able to identify why are they not working, and hence we thought about these sessions. So the agenda of today's session is simple: bust 5 myths of English language or verbal ability preparation for any competitive exams. There are, some of you would relate to 1 or 2 myths, some of you would relate to more than 1 or 2 myths, but these are the myths that we have collected over the last 4-5 months, interacting with a lot of students who are facing problems in the English language and verbal ability section, asking from them what exactly they have done, and understanding how they have not been able to score according to their capabilities. So we have identified these 5 myths that has been propagated again and again through different sources, and we're going to bust those 5 myths today. So busting 5 myths of verbal ability and English language preparation for competitive exam is what we are going to do today. But how would it help you? How is that going to help you? Now, those people who are targeting competitive exams and they have a verbal ability section, in the process of busting the myths of preparation, we will share with you all the sincere, with all of you who are sincere candidates who are trying for your dream job or dream college. Actually, what should you do, or what you need to do, and how to do for improving your English language scores or verbal ability scores. Right? So to crack any competitive exam which has verbal ability and English language, what are the basic works that you should do on yourself, apart from obviously taking tests, apart from taking mocks and taking those exams? What are the essential things that you need to do for yourself in the process? So one part of it is busting the myth, why it works, how those myths has been propagated, why those myths have been propagated, because it works for some people, but for whom does it work and why does it work? Secondly, for whom does not work and why it does not work? So that is one part of the agenda, which is busting those 5 myths. So busting those 5 myths, when we say, we'll talk about these 2. And what should we do? What should a normal candidate do? What should a person do to crack these exams is the second part of this. So in each one of these myths, we will talk about the myths, why it works and why it does not work for you, and how you can make things work for you, right? So that's what we'll do. So let's start. Sure. So the first myth, myth 1. Read the Hindu daily to crack English language or verbal ability section. Amazing, it's as I said, drink this tonic to build a 6-pack. That's the kind of promise it seems like, and people really believe it. But what I was surprised to see is a lot of students genuinely believed it. Now let me tell you, why has this myth been propagated? Because it has worked for some people, as I told you. Now, but it has worked for whom? And why had it worked for them? I'll tell you. It has worked for those who felt it is just a newspaper and they picked it up to read news and articles of days. They did not give more than 1 hour a day to it. They gave hardly 1 hour a day to it. For them, it worked. Who felt that this is just a newspaper, we'll have to read news and articles from it. It worked for those who felt comfortable with the words and the writing style of the Hindu newspaper, right? So it worked for those. Third, it worked for those who had been doing it for long and have become comfortable with the writing style and the words, or who have made it just a newspaper to read rather than the Hindu, right? People give the Hindu so much respect that they don't treat it as a newspaper. They treat it as if it's going to help them crack their verbal ability section. It's just a newspaper. It has no it has no agenda to make you crack competitive exams. Yes, it has good articles. Yes, it prints, its opinions are delivered in a way that your understanding develops, but at the end of the day it has very less connect to what you do actually in the paper, or the kind of skills that you need in the paper, apart from the reading skills, obviously. So those who have been doing it for long have developed either one of these, and therefore they are doing it. Now, why is this working for them? Because they have not replaced English preparation with newspaper. They might say it so, but they haven't, right? So you have been duped. So those who believe that the people who have cracked, they have replaced English preparation with newspaper reading, they are making a fool out of you. It's not true, right? So it's just one contributor, an important one, I agree, but one contributor of many, as I told you. I'm telling you, I'm talking about the Hindu here, but it can be as well be Indian Express, it can be any other newspaper, but the Hindu is the most commonly suggested ones, and hence I took out this. So a newspaper which uses heavy words, which uses difficult constructs, language to portray its thoughts and opinions, is what I mean by the Hindu here. So the Hindu, mark my words, the Hindu is a very good paper, but it's not necessity to be a reader of Hindu to crack any exam. That's a myth. That's a myth, right? So if you like the paper and you are reading it, that's a different issue. Secondly, understand why these people are able to crack, because they have developed an ability to identify the right sentences, the efficient ways of portraying ideas. Why? Because they have done it for years. They have read it for these right sentences from any newspaper. Why the Hindu? For any newspaper, you read it for 3-4 years, you will develop an uncanny habit of predicting that this is a right sentence and this is not a right sentence. Why? Because years of habit drill that particular capability inside you, right? So that's why they do it. So these are the people for whom it works, and these are the people for whom it works, and why it works is something that I have given. Now, for whom it does not work and why it doesn't work, those who think it's a tonic for English. Sometimes I'm surprised to know that 2 to 3 hours they are giving to newspaper reading. Now, if you give 3 hours to newspaper reading, you would not be left with much time to practice questions. You would not be left to much time to read something else, magazines, books, for example, right? So this becomes a burden to you. Now, those who are not comfortable with the words and writing style, like, even if I am not comfortable, I do not understand any multiple words in a passage of Hindu, I stick with Hindu. Why, sir? Why, ma'am? Why are you doing so? Go for a lesser difficulty level newspaper, a Times of India, maybe a Hindustan Times. If you feel that that's also difficult, start with a lesser difficulty material, right? But don't just press yourself because someone has said that if you don't read Hindu, you will not crack exam. That's utter nonsense. No, that's not so, right? So, as a matter of fact, it is always advisable to change newspapers so that you are able to identify with different writing styles. So, even if you are able to read the Hindu, it's advisable that you also read Indian Express sometimes. You also read Times of India sometimes. You also read Hindustan Times articles sometimes, so that you make yourself comfortable with different writing styles. Right? Okay. So those who are utterly uncomfortable with the Hindu's style, writing style and words, they should not pick it up at the start. They should leave it. Even if you do not read the Hindu for your whole preparatory period, it's okay. That doesn't make that would not hinder your chances of getting into your dream destination, whether it's a job, whether it's a college, whatever. Now, those who do it for 2 to 3 months and think they would be as good as the regular reader, now that's something of a thinking or expecting too much, isn't it? A person who is reading it for 2 to 3 years, and you think that within 2 to 3 months you will be at par with that, doing the same thing that he is doing. Yes, in 3 to 4 months you can be at par with a person who is preparing for 2 to 3 years, but you cannot do the same things that he has done. You'll have to do things more efficiently, smartly, right? Next. Now, why doesn't it for those who it does not work? Why doesn't it work? Because you replace English preparation with newspaper. Because you don't develop a connection with the language. It's always that if I understand this, I will crack the exam. So that love for language never gets developed. You don't enjoy it. You just do it because it's a task to be done. Right? So these are the reason it doesn't work. Now, this is the myth. How do we break the myth? So, breaking the first myth. Make a more diverse and comfortable reading habit. Now, how do we do so? I'll tell you. What and how to do? I'll tell you. First, read newspaper to read news and articles, especially editorials, even if you're not reading news. See, a lot of exams have general awareness. So, but then general awareness you will get from your daily newspaper, it's hardly likely. You get your general awareness from your weekly magazines. You get your general awareness from the tests that you give of current affairs. You don't get them from everyday newspaper. So, don't give unwarranted amount of time to newspaper. Newspaper should not be more than 45 minutes a day. And if you ask me, what is from the English perspective, what is the most important part of the newspaper that you should read? That's editorial, right? So if you have only 30 minutes, 35 minutes, you just go to the editorial page, read the whole editorial page, and that's it. You can leave the whole newspaper as it is. Now, if you have a little more time, 15-20 minutes, you can just move ahead and watch the page, the business page maybe, the page, sports page, the pages that interests you, right? So you make it an activity which you'd like. Yes, editorial activity is something that you need to do, because please understand, editorials are written by people who are experts of those things on which the column is. So essentially what is happening with my morning breakfast, I am getting at 3 rupees, 4 rupees the newspaper, which has the opinion of the best people who can give opinion on those particular issues. So if I miss those best opinions or the people whose opinions matter in their respective fields, then I miss a lot, right? I miss to get an idea about how things are portrayed, how things are explained, how a person who is an expert at something can clarify his standpoint. These are the things, these are the fine things that I miss. It's not that you will get them on the first day. It gets drilled in after years and years of doing it, but within the first 3, 4, 5 months, you would get an idea of it. Okay, next. For regular reading, pick the newspaper whose style you are comfortable. As I told you earlier also, if you're not comfortable with the Hindu, don't go with the Hindu. Go with the Times of India. Go with the Hindustan Times maybe. Sometimes change newspaper. Even if you're comfortable with most of the newspaper, you should change newspaper to just make yourself comfortable with varied styles. Because or else you'll be cooped into a specific style of writing, and then you will not be able to understand other styles of writing. Do it regularly and don't expect instant result. Now this is something, no instant gratification would be there. Don't expect instant result from newspaper reading. That's not something that happens. That happens over a long period of time. So if you're a regular reader for 5 months, 6 months, you would obviously get some differences, but they would be so slow and they would be so gradual. Rather than slow, they would be so gradual that you will not even realize. Don't replace other activities with newspaper. Do book reading, do question practice, do magazine reading. So if you replace other activities with newspaper, these activities with newspaper, then you are losing a lot of important stuff, because all important stuff is not there in newspaper. It's again a myth, right? We get in book reading, we get longer passages, longer stories, ways of portraying. If you need to have 200 pages. In question practice, we have specific questions and specific ways to solve it. In magazine reading, we get our general awareness. In magazine reading, we get how we should make an article on a longer article on a particular issue. So these are different styles of writing, and we should be comfortable with all of these styles of writing, because whether your reading comprehension passages would be from newspaper or a book reading excerpt or a question or a magazine article, you don't know that, right? Now, this is the most important thing. Get interested in the story that you are reading. Do not make it a duty or a burden. Look forward to it, because you will come to learn about some new stuff today. See, and also what you can do is, after a difficult reading, close your eyes and make a mental summary. You may also think about writing one article summary every day, and we'll talk about writing summary in the written myth also. But then you can at least make a mental summary of all the difficult articles that you have read that day. Okay, so take stock. Sometimes wait and let the article get inside you. Give that 1 minute or 2 minutes that's required for a difficult article to be assimilated in your brain. Right? So get interested in the story you're reading. You'd see your understanding also has developed a lot. Clear? Okay. So that was myth 1 and breaking the myth 1. Now let's move to myth 2. Memorize word list or build a huge vocabulary. Very good. Now this is another myth. It's like, do bench presses and you will have strong thighs, you will have strong muscles of arms, you will have everything in your body would be beautifully working if you do only bench press. Does it happen that way? Doing only one exercise, does it give you everything? No, it does not, right? So if someone tells you that you just need to walk every day and you will have 18 biceps, is it possible? No, it's not possible, and you know that, and you would call the person a fool if he does so. But the same kind of thing when happens in your academics. Someone asks you to, guys, just memorize word list, your English should be fine. What is this? You believe it? Why? It's as same as saying that walk and you will have biceps, you will have quadriceps, you will have everything. Okay, that's not how it works. Okay, so for whom and why it works, let us see, because as I told you, all of these myths were propagated by people for whom it worked, but either they did not understand the whole stuff and therefore they thought that only doing this had helped them, whereas they did a lot of stuff apart from that and therefore they were helped, or they are in plain they are misguiding you. Okay, so it worked for those who are taking exams which have direct synonyms and antonym question, and that too in a limited way, because all questions would not be synonym antonym question. Only 5 out of 50 questions or 30 questions would be synonym antonym questions. And as a matter of fact, all the important exams, if you look at, right, whether it's the MBA entrance exams like CAT, SNAP, or ZAT, or the bank PO exams like SBI PO, IBPS PO, we are not seeing direct synonym antonym questions there. We are all seeing contextual vocabulary application questions out there. So essentially, it's not going to work for those who are targeting these kinds of exams. Second, those who have done this in their school life. Now this is very important. A lot of people in their school life starts building a good vocabulary. You see, in school life we do a lot of good things. And what happens due to it, we learn vocabulary, but we don't stop at learning vocabulary, we use it, है ना? We use it in our daily parlance in school, so it becomes a part of our life. And now that person can say that vocabulary helps him, but essentially what is helping him is vocabulary and his ability to use those vocabulary in relevant areas. But he only says that vocabulary helps him, so which is partially true. Okay. Now that's what I said, that because they are now comfortable using different words in different context. Also because they have developed habit of playing with words, because they have been doing it from the school life. Okay. Now when they say that vocabulary is helping them, yes, definitely I agree, vocabulary is helping them, but my question is, would it help them, those who have not done this in their school life, would it help those guys in the next 3 months? Not to that level, obviously not to that level, and definitely not in this way, definitely not in this way, right? So when you who have not done this from your school life start doing this, what happens? Without using your minds, you just mug up the meanings of the words. Very good, you do that, and then what happens after 15-20 days, when it seems that the words have, every word has meanings in different multiple contexts. In a different context, one word would have a different meaning, and another the same word in a different context would have a different meaning. Now when you come across these kind of things, you get frustrated with the dictionary meanings of the words, because you see that the dictionary meanings of these words are so broad that you can't just remember all of them. It's just plainly impossible for you to remember all of it. So you get frustrated after 10-15 days. You start off with all your sincerity. I know most of the times the problem is not sincerity. Most of the times the problem is not that you do not want to do good. Most of the times the problem is that we are doing it by the wrong method, and hence when we do not get results, we get frustrated. Hence when a lot of time is wasted, we get frustrated, which is obvious, na? Which is but natural. Okay, so you get frustrated and you therefore leave it. Why is it happening? This is happening because you never use those words in your own communication. You're just mugging up the meanings. And also, please understand, the difference between this and this person is that this person is not afraid of words. He's interested in words. He plays with words. She plays with words. But this person is afraid of new words, of their new usages. And therefore, he or she never enjoys the process of learning different ways of using different words. Got it? Right? So this is the second myth. How do we break it then? So we break it by starting to learn different contextual usage of words. And not only starting to learn, but enjoying it too. Now how to do that? Simple. Learn usages, different usages in different context, and not meaning, uses. The usages of those words in different areas. How do we put those words? Different meanings in different contextual backgrounds. Now you would see that one of the things which we do regularly might help you in this case, and it is Merit Shine Fiber, fun vocabulary enhancer. That's every day we give around 5 words and contextual meaning of those 5 words. So there is a sentence, there are words underlined, and we give you the options of those words. You need to pick up the right words. So it's in the form of a quiz. So that might help you to learn different usage of the same words and different words every day. So you might take the help of that, or you might do it by yourself too. Learn words and their usages through innovative techniques. Now, what are these innovative techniques? There are a lot. For example, there is a technique called association. There is a technique called mnemonics, right? We at Merit Shine, we had developed a technique using all of these innovative techniques, the most of the major innovative techniques, and clubbing them together to make a more relevant and useful technique, which was Ramsar. So you can do it by the Ramsar way also. So the idea is that whichever way you take, whether it's the Ramsar way or any other way, this is the playlist of the Ramsar way, you need to do it by yourself. So you can go through this playlist and see how you need to do it. But then after that, post that, in the lectures also I have told again and again that you need to do it at your own place, right? So learn words and their usages through innovative techniques. Now, use them in your communication. Now that's very important. You're using them in communication, your written communication, your spoken communication. Now that's something that's going to make or break the deal. The more you use them in your daily communication, the more you become familiar with those words. So even if the words come in a different avatar in your exam, you sort of connect with those words because you're familiar with those words, and people with whom you are familiar or things with which you are familiar, you tend to be very comfortable with them, right? Learn and enjoy words and their usage, and don't make it a burden. Test your knowledge of words and their contextual meanings on regular basis. Obviously, this testing, like Fiverr, Fiverr is something that can help you test your knowledge of words and their contextual meaning on a regular basis, because you get 5 words and 5 sentences every day, right? So this is how you break the myth of vocabulary. Yes, vocabulary is important. We also agree to that, but marking it up is no solution. Right. So the best solution for competitive exams like this is to enjoy learning different contextual usages of the word. And these are the ways, this is what you do, and these are the ways you do it. Right? Okay. Chalo, let's move on to myth number 3. The myth number 3 is, this myth comes in 2 variants, 2 opposing variants, contrasting variants. First variant is be an expert in grammar. Right? And the second variant is grammar is useless. So these are these 2 schools of thought. Ekdam contrasting, very contrasting. One says that be an expert in grammar, then only you can be good at English. One says grammar is useless and therefore you don't need to do it. Now the problem is with these 2 is that both are myths. Why? Let me tell you. But before that, for whom and why it works? It works, the first school of thought works for those who want to be language teachers. Do you? If you don't want to be language teacher, if you want to be cracking at your competitive exams, then you don't need to be an expert in grammar. Now, what do I mean by expert in grammar? I'll come to that. Also, the first school of thought works because he or she needs to be an expert, because if you want to be language teacher, you need to be an expert at that. So therefore, you'll have to be know all the rules, know everything inside out, or most of the things inside out. The second school of thought, for whom does it work? It works for those who uses or identify, maybe unconsciously, but they do it, the right grammar from years of using this language in conversation and communication. So because they have been using this in conversation and communication for years, they automatically have that hunch of right grammar. So when they say that grammar is useless, they essentially are using those grammar rules, but they do not know it. And at the end of the day, in their not knowing, they are giving wrong advice. Second school of thought. So then he or she is already, as I said, they are already using these concepts, but he does not know it. Next, for whom and why it doesn't work. It does not work for the first school of thought. In the first school of thought, the person who wants to be an expert in grammar, but not a language teacher. He doesn't want to be a language teacher, but he wants to be an expert in grammar to crack a competitive exam. Why doesn't it work? Because you take huge amount of work, mostly which is not necessary. You see, trying to understand a grammar book, all those 1,000 rules, 250 page of grammar is so much. It's too much. For a competitive exam, it seems to be a huge amount of work. And therefore, it does not work for you because you are never able to complete it. Even if you are able to complete it, you are never able to apply it or use it. It also does not work for the first school of thought because most of the first school of thought follower, that is expert in grammar follower, they delay practicing question till they remember every rule. And sadly, this remembering every rule never happens. Right? So even in utterly unfamiliar languages, like Chinese, Spanish, what the coach says is grammar is okay, but you first have an idea about what are the words and how is it spoken. So if you had been studying a Chinese or a Spanish and you said ki sir, I will learn the grammar first and then we'll move on to the conversation, then I might have unwillingly agreed, but that is also not necessary in that kind of cases. And this is English, my dear friend. This is English. English is something which you are not unfamiliar with. You have been coming across English in your school life. You have been coming across English in movies. You have been coming across English in the competitive exams. It's not that you are utterly unfamiliar with English as a language. You have some familiarity with its language. So in this kind of language where you have already familiarity, starting with grammar and having, nurturing this mentality that only being an expert in grammar would help you is stupidity, isn't it? Think about it. You learnt your mother tongue by learning grammar, kya? Did you do that? You didn't do that, right? You learnt your mother tongue by just conversing in it, and then you started learning grammar of it. I don't say that grammar is not important. Obviously, it's important. But to understand grammar, you'll have to understand the utility of the grammar. You'll have to know the language a little bit. Right? So, in both these cases, first school of thought fails. Second school of thought, why does it fail? Simple, because he remains unprepared. He remains underprepared or unprepared. And these are the people who will always tell you to go by gut feel. But as you are underprepared, your gut feel is never accurate. Okay? So this is what happens. It's like that. See, a person who is prepared has a good gut feel. His gut feel is accurate. But a person who is underprepared, his gut feel will never be accurate. Right? So this is something you need to understand, that these are the people for whom it does not work. Now, how do we break this myth? Breaking this myth is simple. Learn application of relevant concepts rather than mugging up rules. Don't go on mugging up rules. Learn the application of the concepts. See how? I'll tell you. Prepare those concepts from where maximum errors can occur in English. Because see, in competitive exam, what is asked is error correction or error spotting. They don't ask you the finer points of grammar. They ask you where from error can come and how would you change those particular parts of the sentence. Now, on this, we have a full playlist called Grammar for Competitive Exams playlist. You can go through that playlist. The whole idea of designing this playlist was that you go by the methodology of finding errors and are learning grammar through the error method, which is the competitive exam method, right? Rather than learning grammar from the school time method, which is learn every rule and every page. For the school life, that was okay. But for our competitive exam scenario, this is more required. So you can take help of this playlist. You will find them in our YouTube. All these playlists that I am sharing with you, they would be in the link in the description and in the comment section in a pinned comment also, right? So you can just go through directly go from there, or you can search our Medshine channel for that. Now, take the middle path. What is the middle path? You see, you need to practice the questions alongside concept building. Now, you should understand that concept building and practicing question feeds into each other. So this feeds into helps you into practicing questions, and this helps you into concept building. So it's a circle, right? So your concepts would be strengthened by practicing questions only, or after you know these concepts. Don't try to know all the rules. Try to use what you know. This is more important than this. Even if you do not know one or two rules, or out of the 25-30 important rules, 5 rules, that would not hurt you. Rather than, what would hurt you more is that the 30 rules that you don't know how to use them. Don't be afraid of mistakes when you speak, when you write or converse in English. Think about your mother tongue. You did so many mistakes in your mother tongue when you started as a kid, right? So what did you do? Did you stop communicating in your mother tongue because of fear of mistakes? No. You learned from the mistakes and did not repeat them. That's what happened, right? So why not in English? It's also a language. It's just a language. Why do you make a big thing out of it, right? So don't be afraid of mistakes. As a matter of fact, welcome mistakes with both hands so that you can learn from them and then move on to be a better person in this particular language. Okay, right? So that was the way how you should have, how you can break the myth 3. Now, the myth 4. Focus on speaking. Now, this is another myth that comes on regularly. You know, sir, I will focus on my spoken English when I will get a call from interviews, or I'll focus on my written skills when I get a call from mains or in interviews. You see, written skills or written assessment test or essay writing, letter writing, these have become almost an integral part of most exams, if not all. In MBA entrance exams, you have them at the time of the interviews. In banking exams, you have them at the time of the mains exam, right? So in different areas, you have these exams at different points of time, but you have them. And in interviews, in group discussions, obviously your spoken skills are always checked, evaluated. Now, one of the myths that have been propagated by a lot of people out there is that first clear your preliminaries, first clear your prelim exams, mains exams, and then prepare for spoken. First clear your CAT and then prepare for spoken. First clear your campus recruitment drive written exam, then prepare for spoken. Now, there is a problem with this myth. What is it? For whom does it work? Does it work for someone? And if it works, why it works? It works for those people who are in a habit of communicating in English in their day-to-day life. It works for them, because for them spoken is not an issue. That's a part and parcel of their life. They can do it anytime. It works for those who work in an environment, even if it is not a part of their day-to-day life, it's part of their professional life. So they work in an environment where they are required to communicate both spoken and written and interact with people in English. For those also it works because they have that habit of doing it. So as they have a habit of interacting in diverse situations, familiar and unfamiliar, so in interview becomes another situation for them, right? So 1 month focused preparation only on interview can get them through. Please understand, these people are not preparing for spoken. They are preparing for interviews. Spoken they are already comfortable with. Now these people, when they say the spoken you don't need to worry about, they are right, for they do not need to worry about. But those who are not in this category, do they need to worry about? I'll not say worry, but I'll say they need to be concerned and start preparing about it, right? Also in the written part, these are the people who write regularly, maybe in blogs or mails. So they do not need to be a lot of stressed out on writing. So they a focused writing for 1 month is enough for them, but not for those people who do not have the habit of writing. So for whom and why it does not work? Simple. Those who do not have the habit, those who do not write or speak English regularly as a part of their habit or work, those who have fear of speaking in public. Now, there are people who have fear of people speaking in public. So, can they delay their preparation till the interview call comes? No, they cannot. That would be too late. Because you see, you need to win over your fears. Build a familiarity of language. We have talked about familiarity of language. And building a familiarity, winning over your fear, these things, my dear, takes time. It takes regular practice. So, when you need to flush out that odd, if you need to, please understand, even if you know all the grammatical rules before writing, this is specifically for writing, so more important for writing. Even if you know all the grammatical rules and you're comfortable with the rules, while writing you would see that you are making some mistakes which you can understand while you are reading it, but while you are writing it you are not able to identify with them. So to get out of these, to flush out of these odd grammatical mistakes, you need practice, right? So For practice, you need time. You'll have to give time. For them, for these guys, practice already happens at their workplace. For you, it does not happen at workplace. So therefore, it has to happen at your own place, right? So spoken and written are two things that you cannot keep it till the time of your interview or mains calls. Okay. So how do I break the myth? Simple. Start practicing speaking in English alongside written prep. So written preparation and spoken preparation needs to start right away when you have at least 4-5 months in your hand, rather than when you have only 1 month in your hand, because 1 month is going to be less for you if you are from the second category, right? How we are going to do that? That I'll tell you. See, start spoken activities in controlled environment. Now, what is controlled environment? Controlled environment is an environment where you are in your home or with your like-minded friends, right? Making a group of friends who are also targeting similar exams. How and what to do in detail, I have spoken in this in a lecture, and I'll give you the link of that lecture. But before that, keep doing it. Whatever you do, keep doing it regularly, even if you feel stupid. Okay, because if you even if you feel stupid in front of your friends, it does not matter. It will prevent you to be stupid in front of the interviewer. Watch people who speak well, right? As I told you, all of these I have explained in detail in my lecture, and this is that lecture: verbal communication, the pebble and kiss way. So the link of this should also be given in there. But the idea is that whatever I have told in this lecture and that lecture, this one, you should practice them. Knowing them is not going to help you in any way. You have to do them, right? And at first you will find difficulty in doing them. There is no doubt about it, right? You will not find it easy to do, but then you will have to stick on doing it. And then you, over a period of 2 weeks and 3 weeks, you will find the differences are coming, right? Now, for written activities, start with writing summaries and essays first. Don't move on to statement of purpose writing or letter or email writing from day one. Even if that is what you get in your examination or interview, you start with summaries and essays first, because then you will be able to drive home your point in your written articles in a better way. And when you have practiced it for another for 2-3 weeks, then you move on to these SOP and the letter email writing activities, right? So how do you start off with your essay writing activities? That I have talked about in detail in this lecture. This lecture of mine you would get again on our channel Merit Shine, and we'll give you the link in there, or you can get both these two lectures in the personality development playlist of Merit Shine. So these two lectures, verbal communication and writing skills 1, will give you in detail what you need to do for spoken English and written preparation. What you need to do is to do that, to follow that, right? Start following that now onwards, and when after 4 months, 5 months or 7 months, 8 months, you get a call, you get opportunity to write mains, you are more than prepared. You are more than prepared, and you just hit a sixer out there. Okay, right? So that was myth 4, my dear friends. Let's move on to the last myth, and that is be very serious. Understand every word. Understand every line. Now this is something that I get standing every line. I'm not understanding every word. How can I start reading? How can I start doing passages? How can I do grammar if I don't know all the rules? As a matter of fact, myth 5 is a combination of all the myths together and something more. So let's see, myth 5 works for who and why it works, if it works. That being serious and understanding every word and every line, does it work for anyone? No one. It works for no one. At least in competitive exams, it works for no one. Because that's not how it works. And I'll tell you why it's not working for those people who are not working. It's not working. It's not working because they think English is something very difficult. It needs to be treated very carefully. I told you, we did not learn mother tongue this way. So why we are trying to learn English that way? They think that errors while usage will ruin their life. Maybe they also think that their prospects of marriage would be ruined if they commit errors in grammar. I don't know, but it's funny to look at it that way, see? And hence they become afraid of usage. But the point is that unless you commit these errors, you are not going to be good at it. And these people also have the habit of criticizing themselves a lot for errors. Arey, why should you criticize yourself for errors? Rather, you should congratulate yourself that you have learned something. And what have you learned? You have learned how it is not to be done. Right? Is that not something to be congratulated upon? I think it is. Because this is the wiring they have in their brain, they shift focus from understanding the story to understanding each and every word. And I don't blame you only, because there are a lot of people out there, credible sources, who say this. But at the end of the day, competitive exam is about, or life is about, understanding the story, even if you do not understand each and every word and sentence. Now, because you do this, you make it a duty, and duty is a burden, and you never enjoy the process of reading new things and stories. So, what you have done essentially, you have subtracted fun from preparation, and when fun is subtracted from preparation, you do not meet with success, you meet with failure. Remember this. Competitive exam preparation, if it does not excite you, if it does not, not only in English, in everything, if it does not excite you, if you do not enjoy it, if you cannot love it, you cannot succeed in it. Preparation plus fun makes it success. Preparation minus fun makes it failure. Remember that. Remember that equation. You talk about a lot of equation, na? Remember that equation. So, how do you break that myth? Simple. Go ahead and enjoy. Understand the story, my dear friends. Don't try to understand every word or line. Every word or line, it's a byproduct. You will understand over a period of time. But you'll have to give that time to yourself, na? So, how do you do that? Once you decided what you need to do regularly, then start doing these activities with interest. All the activities that we have talked about. Stop evaluating yourself every day. You're not going to get a change every day. Yes, there will be minor changes every day, but you will not be able to identify them. Just do your job. Over time, improvement would come, and when it comes, you would be pleasantly surprised. If you have noticed, the first 4 myths and the myth 5 are interconnected. Keep in mind, when you break the myth 5, while starting your English improvement campaign, it would help you to break myth 1 to 4. And as a result, again a circle, as a result, as you move ahead in breaking myth 1 and to 4, it would help you raise your interest in learning process. So, myth 5 would be broken too. So, you first start with breaking myth 5, you break myth 5, right? It helps you to break myth 1 to 4, and then while you are breaking myth 1 to 4, it increases your interest and thereby helping you in breaking myth 5. See, they are related. So, enjoy English. That's the key to being good at it. How? Simple. When you read something, article, whether it's newspaper or story, be interested in what's the idea, what's the main idea, what's the author trying to portray, what's the author trying to say, rather than what's the grammar, what are the words, etc., etc., etc. Reserve grammar and word activities, do them, but for later, by the way I have suggested in the earlier slides, not while you are reading a story or a newspaper or an article. When you are reading with that piece, then do the activities of grammar and word like the way I have suggested. Okay, right? So, the next time anyone gives you GAN about this is the tonic to give you 6 packs in English, what do? Right? What should you do? Yes, run away as far as you can from that person, because there is no such tonic. There is no such tonic. that can give you six packs in English. There is obviously love of the language. Start loving the language, enjoy it, and do the things we discuss regularly. Marks would just be a byproduct. Marks would come. You can't stop marks from coming. The moment you start enjoying and loving the language, you will never be able to stop the marks from coming, flowing to you. They would grab you even if you don't want them, right? So that's how it happens. Okay, right? So I hope a lot of queries that you were sharing with me got answered through this session. If you have more queries or some myths that I have missed, please put in the comment section. In the comment section, we'll pin a comment where the links of these lectures that I have referred to would be there. Also, in the description also, these links would be there. Okay. So thank you very much. Now go ahead and enjoy the language and get a great score in English and the other topics, and go and get your dream job, dream seat, dream college, whatever you want. Go and get it. Thank you very much and all the best.